heights they will reach next. DEI Month is presented by Silicon Valley Bank. Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Month is a time to celebrate and highlight our globally diverse community. Join us in recognizing underrepresented leaders from all over the world and listen to these incredible journeys and the new heights they will reach next. DEI Month is presented by Silicon Valley Bank. Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Month is a
Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon if you're in Costa Rica, and welcome to Startup Grind Relaunch. My name is Peter. I'm a director of this chapter that has been open and active in 2015 and 16 and hosted many great local entrepreneurs. And it's really great to relaunch this initiative. We're planning to run monthly hybrid events like this one today, and to keep supporting the local startup ecosystem. So for those who don't know, Startup Grind is the world's largest community, independent startup community that's actively educating, inspiring, and connecting more than 3 million entrepreneurs in over 600 cities around the 20 countries. And we do this through events, media, and partnerships. Today, we have some amazing and diverse panelists that we will talk about some very important topics with. And at the end of the event, we will have none other but the Minister of Foreign Trade of Costa Rica. Hopefully he will be able to join us. So without any further ado, I would like to invite to the stage our panelists, Vanessa Gibson, who is a director at CINDE, Randall Trejos, and Miguel Alvarez. I hope you're all here. We're just waiting for Miguel to come back. Hello and welcome. Would you like to please introduce yourselves and tell us what do you do? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. My name is Vanessa Gibson, as you mentioned. I work with the Costa Rican Investment Promotion Agency. I've been there for over 20 years, and at this time, I am leading the investment climate area, which aims to work with multinational companies that has decided to establish their operation in Costa Rica, improving the investment climate of the country and building up, its capabilities. It's a pleasure to join you today.
Thank you so much. Randall?
Hello, everyone. My name is Randall Trejos. I'm Costa Rican, but I'm based in London, and I'm a impact management and impact investment consultant. I work for the Impact Lab, and basically at the Impact Lab, what we do is we help startups, social businesses, investors, public institutions maximize their environmental and social impact. And we do that. I mean, I try to be as connected as I can to Costa Rica because I want to contribute to my country, but I've been able also to manage certain projects in North Africa, in Europe, but mainly Latin America.
Amazing. Thank you, Randall. Miguel, welcome back. Would you like to introduce yourselves and tell us what you do?
Sure. So I manage globally everything that has to do with technology for what is called AnalogFolk Group. So it's several different brands. So there's an agency called AnalogFolk. There's Fable. There is a platform to try to get a talent from all over the world to be able to create a content. And I'm the CEO of one of the companies within the group that is called With Robots, that focuses on technology and development, that we are specifically using talent from Costa Rica. And then that's also has like direct clients, but it's also to serve the network within AnalogFolk Group.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Miguel. So since this month, we as Startup Grinders globally celebrating diversity, equity, and inclusion, In regards to that, I would like to know more about how your companies are diverse and what are your thoughts on how important these topics are. Maybe we start with ladies first.
Not a problem. So actually, it's very interesting because at CINDE we have to actually do a active and proactive approach towards bringing more men on the team. So we are women. So it's very, very interesting that our general director is always complaining that he needs some more folks on the team with him. But we actually are very much focused on topics like diversity and inclusion, actually being part of the institution framework of the Ministry of Trade. Minister Valenciano actually already launched an initiative where there's a strategy for gender equality for the trade sector in Costa Rica. And we will be one of his, executing parties, arms that pretty much try to motivate those activities that we are planning to develop through that strategy in coordination with the more than 350 multinational companies we work with. So we're able to not just have an objective, but also get good best practices from as the companies that are already established in Costa Rica.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you. How about you, Randall? What's happening at Impact Lab in terms of those topics?
Well, I mean, in terms of diversity, inclusion, and social equity, we're right now engaged in a very interesting project in the Caribbean, where we're looking at the social protection programs that are in place by the government, and we're trying to see if we can make them be more gender responsive, so that they acknowledge that there are differences in the needs of the beneficiaries of those programs, if they happen to be women, or if they happen to work in the informal sector, or if they happen to be head of households. Because usually poverty alleviation and all the efforts that the governments have in the social safety nets that the governments have in place are kind of one size fits all. And the reality is that these conditions, not only gender, but whether or not you work formally or not, and whether or not you have access to insurance, that makes a huge difference. And so then what we're trying to do is make those programs acknowledge those differences and adjust adequately so they can meet the different levels of need, effectively becoming more efficient. Because, I mean, you can't really get more resources. Usually all the countries are very tight in terms of the fiscal space, how much money you can raise from taxes. So then the next frontier is, how do I make that extra dollar, how do I make each dollar count and create the maximum amount of, in this case, social impact or benefit for people. And I think that this is something, well, we're doing it for a social program from the government, but this obviously applies to businesses as well. As at the end of the day, is not always it's a matter of how to get more money, but how do we make that money create the biggest social or environmental return?
That's fantastic. And Miguel, they say if you have a diverse team and you're building technology products, if you have that diversity in the team, that might be one of the best key success things that you could do in order to basically scale your product anywhere because of the diversity. What's the situation in an AnalogFolk group then?
Yeah, and in AnalogFolk group, there's a big focus, and there has always been a big focus in diversity. So besides there always like the pledge and searching for a diverse team, it's massively important for the business where we are at. So let's say into the multiple hats, let's put one of the very important ones and then a big part of the business. We work with a great variety of clients, and we have to always be thinking about their user base, what is going to have a positive impact. We actually need to understand be thinking about their behavior, what they're going to be doing, and to make sure that we build things that are genuinely good for the users. So we always the main thing that goes across everything in AnalogFolk Group is like the idea of we use digital to make the analog world better. So we always have to think about the people first. And one of the things that we have always noticed is the more varied our team is in every shape, way, or form, then the better decisions we make. And it has also been good, like how is have seen that it's also like there is the part of knowing and being coming from a company that we feel and know for the business as well. So there's good stories that I remember. Like one of those, we had done a product that used it at that point in time. It was sort of a breakthrough, but it was we use facial recognition to understand if you loved or hate a product. It was one of those proud moments because it was shown to the CEO of Microsoft, like it made it, like it quite became this famous product. And once I was asked, like, how did we make sure that when people used it, it worked? And I said, like, because I had thankfully, I was working in a company that just by walking the floor, I was able to get people with all colors, shapes, sizes, and everything to make sure that what we were doing, something as how can I say that you have to do so carefully as artificial intelligence to determine love and hate. I said, like, thankfully, like we were able to get the corner cases in our own office. But if we all had looked the same, then as soon as the product goes out there, then it fails. So we strongly believe that making things that are worth doing, you need to like taste your own bread, and hopefully being able to test it across people that have different varied opinions and bring different things to the table. And one of the worst things that we believe could happen is if you're a meeting and everyone agrees, there's already something wrong. So being and fostering an environment where disagreement is at the heart is key to being able to bring people that are going to see the world differently so that they can bring their whole self to work. And when we've been able to achieve that, then naturally people feel welcome. And I can even speak for myself, right? Like I'm a immigrant from Costa Rica, moving to London, not very traditional, and I arrived to a place where I did looked different than everyone else, but I still felt welcome, and I had actually the prejudgment of thinking that was going to have an impact, and it didn't. And I've been able to have like a fulfilling career where I completely forget that who I am and where I come from an impact on that, and that's actually quite reassuring. So yeah, I do believe it's at the heart of what we do, and it should continue to be.
So amazing use of technology. Thanks for sharing that. And yes, London is very diverse and then welcoming everyone, I guess, as Costa Rica is, which is really amazing. But I would like to talk about a topic that's everyone's talking about now. You can see it in the movies, documentaries, and even in music. New Coldplay tour is all about climate change, and their first day actually of the tour is in San Jose in Costa Rica. And there's a huge amount of investments going into the initiatives and startups that are using technology to solve the main challenge of climate problems. And I would like to ask you a question, which what is the role of startups in climate change mitigation, and how they're addressing those social issues? I know that Randall is very much involved in this, but I know also Vanessa, you've been in front of that in like more than 20 years, I guess, in your job. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about what you think about these topics.
Well, actually, in the perspective, there is this, enormous area of opportunity for the country to even build a larger brand. As you said, for example, in climate change and in general, all the topics related and all the areas of interest of the SDGs, we are looking forward for even a bolder approach and a bolder projection of the talent that we have in Costa Rica that could come up with some solutions that will help globally, to solve some of these issues, or at least at some point. We are in that process of actually conveying and partnering with some of our local, stakeholders and so, because there is still, and I'm not sure if Randall and Miguel will agree with me, but it's still an area where Costa Rica needs to have a profound definition of what's its next step towards building up that ecosystem of startups and engaging, the right conditions for those startups to strive and to, go through the entire, experience of a startup. I think the country has a number of components to build up I would say, a fairly good ecosystem, one that will definitely need later to strive on. But still, we need to pinpoint and how we build a roadmap for this ecosystem to really, develop, create these opportunities, and take advantage of the talent of all those Costa Ricans that, with a view and within a country with a culture towards sustainability and all that and so on, will come up and strive in this startup business. I think we are still lagging, and initiatives like Startup Grind, I think it's a good opportunity to start building community and to conveying this message. But we probably are a little bit behind of where we should be today.
Well, that's fantastic, and I have to congratulate you on winning the Earthshot Environmental Prize, Protect and Restore Nature, in London just yesterday, I believe. And this is a great start. This is a great start. Working with startups, I think, would be the next. But Randall knows, I think, more about this than anyone else, I guess. Randall?
Yeah, I mean, the prize is a great recognition, and I eventually, I mean, if you look at the actual program, the payment for environmental services, it's a great initiative in paper, but it could be a lot better. So whereas we should celebrate being recognized for that, we shouldn't really become too complacent, because there's a lot more that we could do, and that's precisely the role that startups could have, because government programs like this one are potentially very impactful because of the scale, but the program design and the execution of that, not just this particular program, but any public program, tends to be suboptimal. So then better ways or better business models to achieve climate mitigation solutions can come from startups that are faster, nimbler. They can iterate and come up with solutions that are probably better designed. So I think that there's an opportunity for startups to step up and innovate in terms of what we do for climate change mitigation. And the holy grail would be to have startups collaborate with public programs that have all these resources and all this leverage. Because again, with the public sector, you get scale, and you get eventually some regulatory opportunities, but they're very slow. And there's sometimes there's little accountability, and they're not very results oriented. Whereas startups are precisely the opposite. They don't have as much resources and leverage, but they are fast, and they can become they can come up with solutions that potentially could be game changers. So I think, just to wrap up, Costa Rica is right now at a great crossroads of an opportunity where it has all this international brand around sustainability, and a brand that obviously CINDE has helped build. But we have to capitalize on that by trying to, come up with better programs or initiatives from the private sector that can show how, with innovative business models, we can do probably more effective stuff for the environment and to tackle climate change.
Amazing And Miguel, what do you think? What are your thoughts on how startups are innovating with deep tech and AI to support sustainability and climate?
I always feel startups are very, let's say, close to the reality. Like normally startups always start from a need, right? Like so it's people that they live like the prejudgment of carrying a baggage of operational cost of things that target that need to achieve and things like that, and they are purely focused on a solution that is worth doing. So one of those definitely, like I think it is pretty much close to all of us and affects all of us, and it's climate change. So uh, I fully agree with what Vanessa said. Like if we said on Costa Rica, like one of the things that I feel the talent is there, like the talent with the exposure, the talent with the understanding of the climate, even the talent that really takes it personally and have the luxury of having been raised in a place that where 25% is protected land, like that thinking that nature is important and is key to who you are and your identity. So you're full of people that believe that that is massively important for them. But what we need is to marry up talent with opportunities, a feeling that you can be a startup. Like one of the things that I always like, in a very simple way of saying it, if my understanding every time that I see a startup or when I've been in initiatives supporting a startup from Costa Rica, one of the main things that I try to help them understand is many companies that people could admire if it's about music and you're like, oh, I admire, I don't know, Spotify and streaming services. Starting from that thinking that you're creating a .com rather than a .cr that is very targeted to thinking that it's just Costa Rica is one of the first mentalities that I see. Like when I go to Costa Rica, there's this feeling where you see very talented individuals that they could come up with ideas that could be successful in London, in Hong Kong, in major cities. But one of the first things that they do is the narrow thinking that the market that they go after conquering is the one in Costa Rica. So I feel that there is an element of helping to build those connections so that if someone has a great idea, they can go and conquer other markets. The other part is there's very entrepreneurial people, but being able to have the right support legislation, because knowing how to manage operations is very complex. Knowing how to start a company is very complex, and understanding how to pay taxes is very complex. Having employees is very complex. So that moment where you have a talent and being able to support them is quite important. Again, like it's not that I know lots of happening in other countries. I just can understand the contrast that I feel now here versus in Costa Rica. My wife runs her own business, and she was running it in Costa Rica, and she really struggled being Costa Rica and create all the paperwork. She arrived in the UK, and she legally registered her business, and then she had an insurance, and she was working, and it was minutes. She registered on her local council, and then she had a registered business, and she had a startup up and running. Like I was like, you missed something. Like there is someone is gonna come knocking at our door. There's gonna be a lawyer that is gonna come asking like, what's happening here? And no, it was right. Like she just did it, and then she had like a license and insurance, and she was running her company. So and then immediately then when you saw that until your business does more than this amount of money, you pay taxes. Before that, you don't have to go and talk to council or get anything. You literally is known that until your business makes good amount of money, you pay back taxes, which is great. But then you just get started. Legislation in Costa Rica like is very behind. Like you first like now that going back and opening a business in Costa Rica, now that I'm working for a multinational company and gets the door open at a multinational company, super easy. Difficult. So it feels that what we offer for companies that from the outside that arrive to Costa Rica, we need to also find how to offer that for our own talent, because it feels that it's not on the same territory. So it's not only about the talent and the knowledge. I fully agree with Vanessa. Is we start to find the maturity and the understanding that it's also great to attract companies like thankfully like the work for, but it's also great to take the talent that now has that amazing knowledge and foster it and give the foundations. And they are so close to a country that loves nature that then it's a, I would say, a match made in heaven. But yeah, I fully agree with what Vanessa and Randall said.
Well, that's a nice segue, Miguel. Thank you, because my next question was about access to talents for companies that are scaling to Costa Rica, and how easy is for companies to incorporate in Costa Rica and then start running. Is there a talent? How does the tax works, and then kind of what's the environment for that? So maybe Vanessa, you can tell us more about your thoughts on this. Sorry, you're on mute.
Actually, Miguel created my best way to say that I have a job precisely for the complexity of how the country runs doing business, right? So definitely it's an area of constant improvement. For countries like us, I would say in general in Latin America, to really grasp on the concept of a startup, of innovation, and so on, requires a complete reset of every fundamental piece of institutions in country. Though for multinationals seems a little bit easier, they just have the resources, to go through all of that process that is there. So yes, it's an area where we need to work us on, definitely. I think the experiences of other locations, London, all the key and big players in the startup, geography, is sharing signals, and where when a country aims to develop that ecosystem, we need to improve, and we need to improve again, as Miguel mentioned, not just for those entrepreneurs and startups that might want to migrate to Costa Rica and see the opportunity as well, and even add to the talent development strategy that we should have, building up on our own strength to create and foster our own startups. But even for these, if they don't see the right ecosystem happening to engage and have a vibrant innovation trend, the country start losing its sex appeal as well. So it goes everywhere. We need to improve on these areas of how to help people strive on their business plan and so on, funding, talent development. I think we do have the raw material. We need to work on it to have a final and very attractive product.
Yeah, and you mentioned startups, but I also noticed that many scale-ups are moving to Costa Rica, and some of them, for example, I know loads of venture capitalists who, during pandemic especially, just moved to beautiful Costa Rica. They're just enjoying Nosara and that side of the paradise, I guess, on this planet. Necessarily trading as a Costa Rican companies, but they're just kind of enjoying the life here, which I think could be really potential. And when it comes to just loads of people moving during the pandemic to Costa Rica, can you tell us more about digital nomad visas, and then how you are working on those things? I know you've been involved in these initiatives before.
Yeah, definitely there is a great opportunity of creating these conditions for attracting digital nomads to the country. Even though they are not directly linked or embedded in our system, they do have the potential to transfer, to have spillover effects in terms of understanding better ourselves, what is needed and so on. And actually, once you have them here, they could stop being nomads at some point. If we have the right conditions, they might want to shift from nomad to local. But then we are also pretty much trying as well, and Minister Valenciano by himself is reaching out to many of these nomads that are here, that are linked to this environment and so on, to pick their brain and better understand where is those pinpoints where Costa Rica could basically have an idea of how to go about doing the transformation that is needed, and basically inviting them actually to be part of that change. So I think that there is a great potential. It's good for them to enjoy the beauty and the beaches and so on of Costa Rica, but definitely we have an opportunity to work with them in a collaborative space to create the right conditions where their business as well could find a good location for running, and investing in the potential of the country.
Thank you. And Randall, what do you think about what are these opportunities, and especially what are the challenges of the startup ecosystem in Costa Rica, and potentially how we could better track and develop it?
Yeah, what actually about 3 years ago or so, we did a study of the impact investment ecosystem, but also the startup ecosystem. So from the startup perspective and also from the investor's perspective. And one of the things, so because this, if you focus just on one side, then you might miss the big picture and the whole picture. If you just talk to entrepreneurs, they say, well, there's little access to capital, and setting up the business is really hard. But then you talk to the investors, say, well, there are not enough projects. I want to invest, but I can't find the right opportunities. So that's why it's important to look at it from the ecosystem perspective and see how those different parts connect. I think the Costa Rica, again, is in an enviable position internationally to attract a lot of people. Let's say people first. Some of those people will be digital nomads, guys that just freelance, and they do online marketing, they do all these things online, and they just want to chill and live in the beach and enjoy life. And that's amazing, because as long as you have a good internet connection, you'll be able to attract that. The country's beautiful, the weather's nice. I mean, what else could you want? Then you have local talent, but you also have foreign talent wanting to go to the country. Then on the other side of the investment part, whereas VC capital markets in Costa Rica are very scarce, I have been approached not once nor twice, but 3 or 4 times by different VC, small VC firms, or sometimes it's just individual investors that tell me, I want to move to Costa Rica and I want to set up like a small VC firm, and I want to invest in agri-tech, or I want to invest in climate change startups, or I want to invest because of the brand that Costa Rica has internationally. So everybody wants to go there, and we're associated with this green, sustainable image. So there's also capital wanting to go to the country, and there's still hubs, like Nosara is one of them. And there's still hubs around the country where there's a lot of expats and a lot of people trying to develop the ecosystem, but still they run into these challenges that Miguel was talking about, where setting up a business is not as straightforward as it could be, or taxes and Social Security and all of this is not as straightforward as it could be. So then I guess the challenge is, number one, look at it from the ecosystem perspective and how these parts connect. Number two, great that we have local talent and we are able to, on top of that, attract more talent from abroad. 3, great that because of the brand image and the great weather and the natural resources, we're also able to attract friendly capital to these solutions. Now let's try to connect the dots. And the way you connect the dots is well, you could start by making things simpler for this players to thrive, create conditions in the environment for them to thrive. And that means not only regulation and making things easier, but also try to invest in community building or ecosystem building. Everybody recognizes the importance of it, but nobody wants to foot the bill for it. Everybody says, well, we have to connect more. And what we're doing right now is part of this. We're trying to create community and have these discussions. But I think that somebody has to pick up the baton. And I don't know if it's the public sector through one of the ministries, or if it's the accelerators, or if it's a grassroots type of movement like Startup Grind. But somebody has to pick up the baton in terms of how do we build community, how do we connect these actors, how do we make them talk to each other, understand where they're coming from and what they need, so that we can connect those pieces, because I think they're there. I mean, from the talent side, from the capital side, from the capacity building side, that they're already there. And for anybody interested in this ecosystem approach, we published the report. Is, I don't know how well it has aged, because it was like 4 years ago. I don't know if things are very different now. Maybe Vanessa can let me know, but we can share later afterwards the report, so that everybody can take a look at it and see a little more in detail what I've been talking about.
Thank you very much, Randall, for this amazing insights. We would love to send the email with the link later on to our community. But you mentioned very important thing, which is leads me to my next question, which is all about access to capital. And I know that VCs are obviously looking for traction, for something, for companies scale-ups rather than early stage startups, companies like Quick Robots or that can scale, that have access to larger markets. And potentially Startup Grind is here to connect. But in terms of funding, and especially importance of impact funding and impact investment, where do you think more investments should go into that? Are those specific tech sectors, like you mentioned, green tech, agri-tech, climate tech, travel tech, or what are the importance of impact investments through potentially government grants and accelerators that should be like a bridge for those early stage companies to get to the level where potentially with robots are? Vanessa, do you have any maybe plans in that? And maybe Randall can go on that.
So actually what we've been addressing, because by the way, CINDE itself, even though it's the Costa Rican Investment Promotion Agency, hasn't included as part of its strategy to attract, venture capital and so on. Actually, it's a discussion that we're having right now, because the country is on the verge of that opportunity to start thinking, bigger related to developing that ecosystem. So to be honest and fair, it's something that we are about to start discussing to extend, if it's possible, and if we are able to contribute actually to that area for the country, we definitely would take it in consideration. So far, CINDE has dedicated itself to attract efficiency-seeking projects, which basically in 4 main sectors. But we are seeing more and more, and this is the reason why we might maybe not take the front thing, but do want to collaborate, that companies, especially multinationals, are seeking more knowledge in countries more than setting up an office. So it might just make sense for us to join our effort with the vision of the Ministry of Foreign Trade and so on to assist in that manner, and help also, as Randall and Miguel has mentioned, create the right conditions. So to be fair and honest, right now, this is something that we are discussing.
And then could you share something more about a first unicorn lab that you're working on? Maybe is that support that will push scale-ups a bit further and bridge that gap between the VCs and then early stage companies?
Well, obviously, if we're talking about Establishment Lab, which is a company that we've been working with for all the years, it basically just gives us a new add to our branding, right? To have a company like that in Costa Rica, it's a breakthrough. And actually the interest of their founders and so on to actually collaborate openly on this discussion is something that we want to take advantage. And they have been very eager as well to promote this understanding in the country of how much more needs to happen for us to build up that ecosystem. So it's definitely today part for us to have a company like Establishment Lab with the outreach and the projection that it gives the country. But then it brings back again a sense of understanding what Miguel's wife have gone through, because they went through a similar path. They was not exempt. Actually, this history is very appealing for us as a country to recognize that there are many companies that probably were not able to accomplish the route and the journey of Establishment Lab, that were impacted in the process because we did not enable the right conditions for them to strive.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. I would just like to mention something about diaspora, and then I know we have Randall and Miguel here, who are both Costa Rican, and then they came to London and eventually scaled their companies back to their home countries. I know Impact Lab also has a subsidiary or branch in Costa Rica, and doesn't it, Randall?
Well, I mean, we're a consultancy firm, and we're a network of consultants. There's people based in Costa Rica. I'm based in London. There's somebody based in Paris. But it's not like we have large offices in every country because of the nature of the business. We don't have to. I mean, we're consultants, so we can work in the same projects regardless of where we are. I guess in our case, maybe Miguel's case is different, but in our case, it was just a matter of having access to what's going on locally, and finding the right opportunities. A lot of my network is inevitably from Costa Rica. So then, and I'm also very interested in whatever I do in impact. I try to seek opportunities in Costa Rica because I know the need that we have. So I want to kind of try to help bridge this gaps that we might have. But yeah, I mean, in our case, is a matter of having access to the market and not losing touch with what's going on in the country and how we can make a contribution, whether it is helping startups that are wanting to become social businesses, or trying to overhaul public social protection programs, or helping VCs kind of set up shop and finding the right way to connect them to the ecosystem when they want to do impact investing. So yeah, in our case, it's pretty much a combination of wanting to remain in contact with my country and contribute, but also having already network there that allows us to make that contribution easier than if we were just some foreign firm trying to bid out projects over there.
Thank you. And how about you, Miguel? Well, what's your opinion on diaspora and connecting back to your network?
I think even before coming to London, I already had thankfully already had the experience of having run 3 different hubs of technology for different companies that were based in Costa Rica, that had some of them bigger than other, but all of them at least more than 100 people type of hubs, and all of them were focused on technologies, whatever was the technology of that moment, all the way from doing development. What was the name of the one? Very old mobile phone. I think it was a BlueBerry one. I even forgot what was the name. But yeah, from all types of technologies during those years, and then people that were in development when it was. So I had to take hops for different places. So naturally, then that means that my personal career was built around people that were working for companies that were outside of Costa Rica, multinationals, but the talent doing the software development was based in Costa Rica. And when I had the opportunity where it opened that then I could come here to be part of the AnalogFolk group project and continue growing technology. My first 6 years still there had the thought of including Costa Rica, but there was the other geographies that we needed to make stronger and organized, and the process that I had to go through but always kept like a close relationship with Costa Rica, and I always kept a close relationship with CINDE, and we were searching like the right moment as a company, and thankfully like we've been experiencing growth opportunities, and I always have kept in touch with some of the talent that I worked with in the past, so it felt quite natural to then bring more people to the equation in what is us as a technology company, and bring them into the network, right? Part to what you say, even to the idea of having more varied talent, so by that moment we have offices like in Hong Kong, in Sydney, and in London, Amsterdam, in US, in different parts of the world, and there's talent distributor around that, and felt like quite natural to add talent from Rica, and even more so people that I personally had worked with, trusted, and in the moments I haven't worked with, that 6 more years they have grown more, and they bring in more value. So it's been a very nice experience in some cases to work again with people that worked 10 years ago. I already believe they were great, and seeing how good they are 10 years later, like it's quite refreshing. It means that personally, when we're bringing people to the families to get like their full talent, not only like develop this thing and just do it like I do, is the other way around. Like there is this opportunity. How do you think we should tackle it? There is this opportunity, like and so it's been a nice evolution, and it's been quite good. The interesting anecdote that I was told was, "Hey Miguel, we that was from someone, a couple of people from the company. We thought that you were like a nice guy, but now that we started to meet all the people in Costa Rica, I think you're cheating. We all think you're nice, but literally we meet all of them and they're all nice. So it's not that you're nice, you're Costa Rican." So in a good way, like that a way of like, how can I say, like that idea of like being welcoming as part of the culture. It's also a key that a strategy, and it's something that has helped, because recently we brought, as part of the idea of with robots, talent from Costa Rica, and they are fitting in very nicely. They are not getting friction, and that has nothing to do with them writing good quality code or great technical knowledge. It has the reality that thankfully they are nice people, and then they create a nice environment that we also benefit from, and I'm pretty sure other companies will benefit from that, because there's always the hard thing, like what are the costs, how many people can you do, can you scale this fast, do you find the skills, right? But the soft skills are the skills of the future, and you see that more and more, right? Like there's a big difference of, like, you can have the best developer in the planet, if his soft skills are terrible, right? Like it's way more difficult than if soft skills are good, and understanding, again, like soft skills is a broader term, but it just means that culture is also a very important thing for any company, even more so for startups, like you were saying, right? Like you're gonna have 3 or 4 people, 2 people just getting started. Culture is more important than anyone thinks about, even more so when you're talking about startups, right? I even feel that culture holds you together when you're a big organization, but culture literally destroys you from even getting started. Like you have 3 founders, and they think their culture matches, and if it doesn't, they might be at the moment where it starts to get difficult, tough, and when they start to become successful, they literally want to break up, not because of the quality of the product, the idea, or the support that they are not getting. It's like culturally they are not fit. So that's another important aspect that I feel from Costa Rica, that I felt like they are, it's been quite easy for them to fit into an overall culture.
Amazing, some amazing notes. We'll definitely take great notes from your sharing. I'm just being considerate of time, and I know that we still waiting for Ambassador to join. Sorry, for Minister to join and potentially share some closing remarks. Hopefully we'll help him soon.
So actually, Peter, unfortunately, Minister Valenciano was not able to connect. So he sends, his apologies, and obviously, to reinforce all the comments that was shared today on the effort and the aim of the government as well to improve on their doings related to developing this ecosystem. But it seems that he was not able to connect to the link, so he sends his apologies.
Thank you very much. And I would just like to maybe ask all our dear panelists to share any closing messages or advice to our community, and potentially, share the places online where people can get in touch with you.
If you guys start, okay, I could get started.
Yes, please.
So I think right now, as we've been discussing throughout the hour, Costa Rica is very well positioned to make the most out of this branding of sustainability and climate change, and the capacity that entails to attract both talent and capital from across the world. I think internationally, governments and development finance institutions, I mean, the big money is realizing the urgency to act to tackle climate change. And I think that we in Costa Rica, we have the possibility to funnel a lot of that capital. And I think it's a matter of kind of connecting the dots, and I think CINDE and the Ministry of Foreign Trade could play a very big role facilitating that, again, because we don't have to make too much effort to attract the right pieces. You were talking, Peter, about VCs wanting traction and certain scale. Before, when we were talking about just run-of-the-mill startup, tech startup, trying to come up with a solution to deliver to a marketplace of 3.5-4 million people in Costa Rica, that was a tough sale. Years ago, I had the opportunity to run an accelerator program from Silicon Valley called the Founder Institute, which is now being, I understand, run in Costa Rica again, which is great. But then the problem there was we had a lot of great ideas, tech startups, but a lot of them were targeting the local market, and it's a small market, and it's to get somebody from abroad interested in investing in a startup that has a total addressable market of total population of 4 or 5 million, but then within those, how many have internet access and how many have smartphones, and then you narrow it down so that it is no longer economically viable, at least not for the ticket sizes that these guys are looking for. But having said that, when we're talking about climate change and all this environment challenges, this is global. You don't have to be local for this. I mean, everybody wants to solve this problem. So if you come up with a great idea, that is a lot easier to scale, to export than some services that you could address through a tech startup. So I think that because of that, then the scalability issue becomes less important because it's a solution that everybody's invested in. And then if we already have, again, as I said at the beginning, the right pieces, then we're sitting on the Willy Wonka golden ticket. We just need to cash it in. That'll be all for me. If anybody is interested in getting in touch with us, it's our website is pretty easy. It's theimpactlab.uk. And yeah, I mean, we can start the conversation as we do more of these sessions. Be happy to share more of what we do and how we hopefully can be of help to the community.
Thanks so much, Randall. Miguel, would you like to share any closing words and then help people where can they find you?
I think from my side, one key aspect I think is always mentioned, but it's important, is to startup, non-startup, to continue like building your network. I always say to people to think of themselves as a brand. Like that's where like brand starts, because even like there's brand, but there's people, right? So building your network is quite important, and building relationships that are long lasting, because it's good, like what we're doing now, to have people that you can bounce ideas with, and it's good that to have people close that whatever it is. Today it could be startup I want to start. Tomorrow it could be a job I might want to take. Tomorrow it could be a complete career change that I'm going to be doing. So I think it's quite important to continue to build a network, and to build, like I said, one related, like with trust. So of course there's the idea that you're like, okay, there's a network that you could do because you want to gain a position, but what I'm trying to get to is make sure that on the process, one of the key things is keep bridges open, build strong relationships, because that's a very important aspect. I feel that one of the things that happen during like any process, like on startups, it's a lonely place sometimes if you don't build the things, because it's sometimes people work very long hours, and obviously so that network is important, but it's equally like quite lonely if you don't build a good network every time that you start to get into any position that gives you any management responsibility. So that's why, like, making sure that you build like a good relationship is one of the main advice I could say. Like, for me, is quite useful. I know it's even more difficult these days where everything is done remotely, but it's quite important. So that's why I feel like this initiative, like Startup Grind, or what we were talking with Vanessa or Randall, bringing people together, is more important than people can imagine, because it's always easier to go through any difficult portion, because there's very difficult parts, right? Like, I think startups start with dreams, but during those dreams, like, there is very difficult moments. So being able to have that is one of my main recommendations. The rest, some of it just comes with experience, some of it just come with studies or whatever, but the network is a thing that should be a common denominator, regardless if you are on the start of your journey or already that you feel you've gone a long way.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Miguel. Vanessa.
Actually, I just want to join and complement what Reddy, Miguel, and Randall mentioned. And just to summarize, I think we are at one of those historic tipping point moments in the history of our country. And we just need to open our eyes and realize that the need of us taking and being proactive and taking action. So it's all about now to be smart and to realize that we're in the moment where culturally we need also to change. So I think someone, Miguel or Randall mentioned, thinking out of the box and thinking out of the fronteras, and thinking that Costa Rica has something to offer to solve many of those global trends and global challenges and problems that is impacting humans as we speak, and climate change and SDGs and all of that brings sort of opportunities. But then we need to change, we need to evolve, and we need to take action. So I really appreciate this opportunity that Startup Grind, move forward to, you know, build up back some momentum around this initiative. And we have to take advantage of having, great minds as the ones that are here, Randall and Miguel, to actually transfer some of that sense of opportunity to our local community, and take full advantage of where we are.
Yeah. Just have a huge thank you to all the panelists. Thank you for your participation, for sharing the wise words, and for supporting the ecosystem. Really appreciate your support, and I'm sure the community will support it even more. So I'm really grateful for that. So this brings us to end of our panel, end of our event, our first event. But there will be many. Our next event will be in Nosara in November, where we will have some investors and VCs on the panel. So please stay tuned and watch this space for more information. startupgrind.com/Costa Rica. And stay hungry and stay foolish. So take care, all of you. Bye.